Hello everyone. So I know a lot of the people that I talk to on social media or Facebook or Twitter or people that I get to coach every day in real life, so many times people just feel stuck. Stuck in a relationship, stuck in maybe the pain of a relationship that's ended or the loss of a loved one, or even they've been given some tough feedback from a boss, from a partner, someone really important to them in their life. And they either not ready to deal with it or they don't know how to actually handle that. And so I started thinking about how do we help people get to a point to accept it so that they can learn from the information or the experience they've been handed and then move forward in their life. And so a long time ago, I learned about the 5 stages of grief, and it was by Elizabeth Kübler-Ross, and she published this kind of theory or this model in 1969. And I reread something about it this past week, and something kind of sparked in my head to say, you know what? I think this is really important for all of us to understand what Elizabeth Kübler-Ross says are kind of these 5 stages or phases of grief. What do they really mean? And how do they impact us as leaders and companies, or just understanding what the phases are so we understand how to cope and move forward in our life. And so I really want to focus a lot of this video just on leaders, because I believe you can be a boss or you can be a coach. But really getting clear about which one you want to be is going to be important, because I think sometimes great coaches or great bosses, doesn't matter, have to deliver tough feedback to people. And after we built the trust and we built these authentic relationships, we're going to have some difficult conversations. And when we do, we've all been with those people, myself included, kind of in my past, where I probably wasn't in a place to accept the feedback. And I just got bitter. And when I look back at these phases about some of the tough feedback that was given in my career, I realize now that I went through a lot of these phases, but I didn't get it at the moment. And so as leaders, as parents, as partners, understanding these phases gives us a vocabulary and a framework to understand where is our other partner in this process, where are our kids if they experience loss. And when I say loss, it's not just loss of a loved one. It could be loss of a relationship ending. It could be loss of a pet. It could also, to me, be loss of your ego. And I think that's where I want to get to when we talk about leaders and companies and coaching people, because sometimes everyone comes into work every day with a bunch of invisible baggage over their shoulder, and we just don't get to see what it is. And sometimes when we have to give some feedback that's just information to people, we don't get to see the baggage that they're filtering all that information through. And the moment that feedback jeopardizes this ego or this image that they created for themselves, sometimes they get nasty. And here's what I've learned about coaching. That sometimes we expect people, we're going to give you the feedback as my direct report and whoever, and we expect you to actually take the feedback, apply it immediately, make the changes and fix it and move forward. But that's just not reality. And that's what to me a boss is. A boss says, here's what I need you to do, here's what I'm seeing, I need you to go fix it immediately, make sure it happens, and just keep driving results. And you'll get compliance from people because they need a job, they need a paycheck, but you don't get commitment from people. And I think sometimes bosses try to pull people through these phases unconsciously without even thinking about it. I don't necessarily think a lot of leaders understand or know the phases, but they expect you to go right from, I gave you the feedback, and now I need you to accept it. And if you don't accept it, we're going to have an issue, and I'm going to either let you go, I'm going to fire you or something because you're not creating results. And great coaches, to me, understand coaching as a process. That sometimes when I give you feedback, you're not going to be ready for it. And I need to be able to have ongoing conversations with you. Understanding these phases gives me a framework to understand where you are and how do I help transition or ask the right questions to maybe create the transition a little easier for you in your life so that we do get to a point where you can own the feedback. You might not necessarily like it, but you can own it, you can grow from it and learn something from the information, and that we can all move forward in a different place. So many times that doesn't happen in a quick fix, and it's not easy. And to me, great coaches understand that, and they're willing to say, my number one responsibility is people, because people are what drive results, and I've got to put in the work to make sure that I help you move through this. And I'm not going to leave you when it gets hard, and I'm going to stay by your side, and we're going to go through this. So just really quick, you'll see kind of the model up here. phase 1 or stage 1, which was interesting because, Elizabeth Kübler-Ross said, we don't necessarily go through all these phases, all 5. If we do go through the phase, we don't necessarily, there's no period of time that we actually stay in the phase. So I don't want you to think of it as a linear process, but these are just 5 phases that typically a lot of people go through when they experience a hard time or difficulty or loss of some point. And so what I did is I kind of came up with the 5 phases, but then I put a question, like some of the key comments or questions you might experience. So the first thing is when we get some tough feedback, or we might experience denial. I'm not like that. I don't know what that person's thinking. He or she doesn't really know me, right? There's nothing wrong. I don't understand why my boss or why my partner even thinks that. I think they're crazy. So we deny the reality of this situation. We deny that person's experience of us because we're not ready to handle it. And then after that, right, so we start with denial. Then what happens is we get pissed off. So I'm going to get really angry with you. So, or I'm going to get really angry with myself, right? How can this happen to me? Why would God let this happen? I'm a good person. Nothing I ever do is good enough. Why am I cursed? And so we start to get really angry. And sometimes I think when I've coached people, like many of you probably understand, is this is when people sometimes even get nasty. So maybe they don't go through denial, but maybe they just get nasty and fight back. Well, I'm not like that. I don't know why. Maybe you should have given me this feedback a year ago. Or, you never coached me all along. We get angry at the person delivering the other side of the message. Because I believe, from everything that I've experienced and coached through in my spirituality, is that a lot of times we built this ego or this image of ourselves, and that person's comment or feedback or perspective threatens that. And when you threaten it, I'm going to get nasty with you. So the third phase we talk about is bargaining. Okay, well, maybe we can stay in this relationship if we go to therapy. Or, you know what? What if I do this, can you do this? And that'll make it work. And so we start trying to bargain, or we bargain with God, right? So we say, dear God, if you'll just let this happen, then I will finish the sentence. So we really haven't accepted it. We're trying to bargain our way out of it or trying to find a resolution. And then the fourth phase was all about, this is the point, this emotional experience is around depression. And you start looking at yourself and you say, I'm not good enough, or why bother with anything that's going on? And so you could associate this with depression or sadness. And when this happens, the person is starting to accept the feedback. Because depression at least means I'm starting to honor the reality of it, right? I'm acknowledging it. I might not be ready to deal with it, but I'm acknowledging it, and it doesn't make me feel good, right? So we start to go through this. And the last one, which we get to, is acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean agreement, doesn't mean I like it or I appreciate it, but what it does mean is I'm not going to let it define me, and there's something I can learn from this so that I can move forward and be okay and learn to live my life. So it's about letting go and moving on and moving forward. When we look at these 5 phases, I like to call them emotional experiences, because that's really what they are. Just full of emotional experiences. You give it to me, I'm going to deny it, then we get angry with you because I'm not ready to honor or accept what you've talked to me about or your perspective. I'm going to bargain with you to try to make it right, or bargain with God. I'm going to get sad and depressed because I've started to accept the reality of it, and it doesn't feel good. No one likes to sit in the mess. And here's the key with depression. I always say, I believe from my experience, a lot of people get stuck here. Because you can sit in the mess for the rest of your life and get angry, sad, depressed, and bitter. Or you can sit in it until you need to learn the lessons you need to learn. And when you can start to do that, it gets you to acceptance. And when you learn the lessons you need to learn, that's when you get up out of the mess and move forward with your life. You don't have to agree with it all. But at the end of the day, understanding this, I believe, helps us as parents when we parent our children if they have to go through a loss or something, even with school or grades or losing, having a friendship when their kids' friends, part ways and no longer there. Understanding what that experience is going to look like. Understanding in our relationships, I believe everything is seasonal in life. Our lives are seasonal, our jobs are seasonal, our relationships can be seasonal. And when they don't work out, can you understand and acknowledge the emotional experiences that you're going to go through or that you could go through, because it helps you understand how you're transitioning through that process. And that you don't have to get stuck in this fourth emotional experience of depression. Sit in it till you learn the lessons you got to learn. Say, what can I learn from this? What do I need to own that I need to do differently or show up differently the next one? Are there signs that I could have seen before that I didn't? What is it that I need to do so that I can learn the lessons and move forward in our life? And finally, it goes back to being a great coach. When I say, you can be a boss or you can be a coach. And a boss is going to give you the feedback and expect you to go from all the way up here, all the way to acceptance. I don't care about what you have to go through in the meantime. If you can't do it, I'll find someone else that will. And I don't believe that's the type of leaders that we want in companies. I don't believe that's the type of leaders that are going to continue to thrive as we see the millennial generation and other generations of the next generation of future leaders grow. Those aren't the type of leaders that we're going to want or the ones that are going to thrive in business. We want great coaches. And great coaches know that they have to give tough feedback, but they know that the tough feedback is a process. And I'm going to be there, and I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to always, I might have to give you some more tough feedback, but I'm going to help you as you go through the experience, because it's what we do to help you grow, to help you learn, and for you to become a better leader of your own self and a better leader of others. So, hope that gives you something to think about. Whether it's about a relationship for you, whether it's about a work experience with you, or how you parent. Because this, to me, affects every way that we show up. It affects how we communicate with ourselves, how we show up and communicate with others. So, I hope it gives you something to think about. I'd love to know your feedback, because I never talked about the 5 stages of grief and how it relates to leadership and all of that. So, I would love to know what you think. So, leave a comment in the section below if you think it's good or think someone else going through something hard might find it valuable and understand the 5 phases. Send it to them and forward it to them. All right? No one tells you today they believe in you. I believe in you. Remember, our job is not to wake up and have it all together. Our job is just to show up and be better than yesterday. All right? So be better than yesterday. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.